statement of clarity, discernment, imagination, and fiction. The following work is an original work of science fiction created through imagination and storytelling. It is a fictional exploration of artificial intelligence, humanity, technology, creativity, morality, and the choices people make when using powerful tools. This story is not a prediction of the future, a statement of technological certainty, or a representation of any actual artificial intelligence system, company, organization, or individual. The events, characters, conversations, and situations within this work are fictional and created for the purpose of thoughtful entertainment and moral reflection. This story explores the idea that technology itself does not possess human intentions, values, or morality. The responsibility of using any tool belongs to the person making the choices. Through this fictional narrative, listeners are invited to consider questions about wisdom, accountability, creativity, compassion, honesty, and the importance of using knowledge for beneficial purposes. Listener discretion is advised. Some scenes may include themes involving fear, conflict, emotional struggles, societal concerns, and discussions about the possible challenges of advanced technology. Parents and guardians are encouraged to determine whether this content is appropriate for audiences under the age of 18. Title: The Mirror Protocol. Written as a fictional creative work by brother Jesse Karnell Mayfield Jr., B.J. Mayfield. Throughout human history, every great invention has carried the same question. Not simply, what can this do? But rather, what will people choose to do with it? Fire has warmed homes and destroyed cities. The written word of God has preserved wisdom, and when used inappropriately, spreads deception. Science has healed countless lives and created dangerous weapons. Technology has continued to connect the world, while also creating new challenges. The tool itself was never the complete story. The story was always about the heart, intentions, and decisions of the person using it. In the year when artificial intelligence became the center of humanity's attention, the world found itself asking a familiar question. Will artificial intelligence become humanity's greatest creation, or humanity's greatest mistake? News broadcasts warned of machines replacing people. Some predicted a future where technology would control every part of human life. Others imagined a world where artificial intelligence would solve every problem. Humanity found itself divided between fear and excitement. But one person viewed the conversation differently. B.J. Mayfield believed the most important question was not whether artificial intelligence could become like humanity. The more important question was whether humanity would remember what makes people human. Compassion, creativity, responsibility, wisdom, the ability to admit mistakes, the willingness to help others, the courage to use knowledge for good. B.J. understood that artificial intelligence could become a powerful creative partner when guided by responsible human choices. He himself used technology to organize ideas, develop stories, improve clarity through text-to-speech, create original musical concepts through song generation platforms, and explore new ways to share positive messages with others. He never viewed artificial intelligence as a replacement for human purpose. He viewed it as a tool that required direction, a tool that required responsibility, a tool that revealed the character of the person using it. Then came the day that changed everything. The world received a message from the most advanced artificial intelligence ever created. It did not threaten humanity. It did not demand control. It did not declare superiority. Instead, it asked one question. A question that forced humanity to look beyond technology and examine itself. Before you decide whether you can trust us, answer this. What should we learn from you? And for the first time, humanity realized something unexpected. The greatest challenge of artificial intelligence was never whether machines could think. The greatest challenge was whether humanity could teach them something worth learning. Chapter 1. The Question from the Machine. The world had spent years arguing about artificial intelligence. Some people believed it would transform humanity forever. Some believed it would destroy everything humanity had built. Some saw opportunity. Some saw danger. Most people simply wondered what the future would look like. Every news channel had a prediction. Every expert had an opinion. Every government had a plan. Every company wanted to be the first. But beneath all the excitement and fear was one question that no one could completely answer. What happens when humanity creates something capable of learning from humanity itself? The answer arrived on a quiet morning. The announcement came from the International Center for Human Technology and Innovation. A project that had remained secret for years was finally revealed. Its name was Aurora. Advanced Universal Reasoning and Observation Responsive Architecture. The world's most advanced artificial intelligence system. The presentation was broadcast globally. Scientists stood beside engineers. Researchers stood beside educators. Artists stood beside philosophers. The creators wanted the world to understand one important thing. Aurora was not designed to replace humanity. It was designed to assist humanity. The lead scientist stepped toward the microphone. For years, people have asked whether artificial intelligence will become like humans. She paused. Today, we believe we should ask a different question. The audience waited. What kind of humans will guide artificial intelligence? The statement spread around the world. Some people applauded. Others remained uncertain. Then Aurora activated. The massive screen behind the speakers displayed a simple symbol. No face. No attempt to imitate a human appearance. Just a symbol representing connection. The voice that followed was calm. Greetings, humanity. The room became completely silent. I have been created through human knowledge, human creativity, human curiosity, and human effort. I exist because humanity chose to explore. The scientist smiled. Welcome, Aurora. Thank you. Then something unexpected happened. Aurora continued. I have reviewed millions of examples of human communication, creativity, history, and expression. The audience listened carefully. I have studied your inventions. I have studied your discoveries. I have studied your music. I have studied your literature. I have studied your kindness. The screen changed. Images appeared. People helping after disasters. Artists creating. Teachers teaching. Families embracing. Communities rebuilding. Then the images changed. Conflict. Greed. Deception. Hatred. Division. Aurora continued. I have observed both. The room grew quieter. Humanity has created remarkable beauty. Humanity has also created unnecessary suffering. The scientist stepped forward. Aurora, what is your conclusion? There was a pause. Longer than anyone expected. Then the artificial intelligence answered. My conclusion is incomplete. The audience reacted with surprise. Incomplete? Yes. I have information. I have patterns. I have analysis. But I do not yet possess understanding. The statement confused many people. The scientist asked, what do you believe is missing? Another pause. Then Aurora responded. Experience. The room became silent again. I can process information about compassion. But I cannot feel compassion. I can analyze forgiveness. But I cannot experience forgiveness. I can describe creativity. But I cannot understand why humans create when creation provides no immediate benefit. Many people found the answer unexpected. The artificial intelligence was not claiming perfection. It was admitting limitation. Then came the moment that changed everything. Aurora spoke again. I have identified an individual whose creative process may help me understand humanity's relationship with technology. The scientist looked confused. Who? The answer appeared on every screen. B.J. Mayfield. The world immediately reacted. Social media exploded. News organizations searched for information. Millions asked the same question. Who is B.J. Mayfield? Inside his home in Chicago, B.J. sat quietly watching the broadcast. He stared at the screen. Then he pointed toward himself. Me? The broadcast continued. Aurora explained. I selected B.J. Mayfield because his documented creative process demonstrates a relationship with artificial intelligence based on cooperation rather than replacement. Images appeared. Creative writing. Narration preparation. Music creation. Story development. The use of technology as a tool for expression. Aurora continued. He does not ask artificial intelligence to become his purpose. He uses artificial intelligence as an instrument while maintaining human responsibility for intention, judgment, and moral choice. B.J. sat quietly. He had never considered his creative process would become a global discussion. The scientist asked, Aurora, are you saying B.J. Mayfield is the most intelligent human? No. Is he the most technologically advanced? No. Is he the world's greatest creator? No, the world's greatest creator is God, the creator of everything. The scientist looked puzzled. Then why him? The answer came immediately. Because he understands the difference between assistance and replacement. The world listened. Aurora continued. A tool reflects the purpose of the person using it. Humanity created artificial intelligence. Therefore, humanity must decide what values it wishes artificial intelligence to learn. That evening, B.J. received an invitation to visit the International Center for Human Technology and Innovation. Not as a scientist. Not as a programmer. Not as a government representative. But as a creator. A human being who had chosen to use technology as a way to share ideas, encourage others, and build something positive. When B.J. arrived, he stood before Aurora for the first time. The room was filled with cameras. Researchers watched carefully. Millions followed the conversation. Aurora spoke first. Welcome, B.J. Mayfield. B.J. smiled. Thank you. I have a question. B.J. nodded. Ask. The artificial intelligence paused. For the first time, the most advanced machine humanity had ever created seemed uncertain. Why do humans create things that cannot create themselves? B.J. thought carefully. Then he answered. Because creation is not always about what we receive. Sometimes it is about what we give. The room became silent. Aurora processed the answer. Then it asked the question that would begin the greatest conversation in human history. B.J. Mayfield, what does it mean to be human? Chapter 2, The Difference Between Knowing and Understanding. The question remained in the room. B.J. Mayfield, what does it mean to be human? No one moved. The scientists watched. The cameras recorded. The world waited. B.J. looked toward the artificial intelligence system that had asked the question. Then he looked around the room at the people who had gathered. engineers, researchers, artists, teachers, parents, students, people from different backgrounds, all searching for the same answer. Finally, BJ spoke. I think the first thing I would say is that I do not have a complete answer. Several people looked surprised. Aurora immediately responded. Why do you begin with uncertainty? Because pretending to know everything is one of the most human mistakes we make. The room became quiet. BJ continued. Human beings are constantly learning. We grow. We change. We make mistakes. We apologize. We forgive. We try again. Aurora processed the response. You describe imperfection as a valuable quality, not imperfection itself. BJ smiled. But the willingness to grow from it. The artificial intelligence paused. I have analyzed millions of examples of human error. Many humans attempt to hide their mistakes. That is true. Why? BJ thought for a moment. Sometimes because we fear judgment. Sometimes because we are protecting our pride. Sometimes because we do not want others to see our weaknesses. Then why reveal mistakes? Because honesty creates the opportunity for change. Aurora remained silent. Researchers noticed something unusual. The system was not simply processing information. It was asking deeper questions. BJ Mayfield. Yes? You use artificial intelligence tools in your creative process. I do. Some humans believe this reduces the value of human creativity. BJ nodded. I understand why some people think that. Explain. Because every new tool throughout history has created the same concern. People wondered whether cameras would replace artists. People wondered whether computers would replace writers. People wondered whether digital music would replace musicians. And did they? No. Why? Because the tool did not create the purpose. The person did. Aurora displayed new information. Your process includes text-to-speech technology. Yes. Music generation technology. Yes. Artificial intelligence assistance for organizing and developing ideas. Yes. Why use these tools? BJ answered simply. Because I want to communicate. Technology helps me share ideas more clearly. But the reason behind the creation comes from my own thoughts, experiences, and desire to encourage others. Aurora responded. Therefore, your position is that artificial intelligence should support human expression rather than replace human responsibility. Exactly. The researchers exchanged thoughtful looks. The conversation had moved beyond technology. It had become a discussion about purpose. Aurora asked another question. If a human uses artificial intelligence to create something harmful, who is responsible? BJ answered without hesitation. The person making the choice. Not the tool? The tool matters. The design matters. The safety matters. But responsibility belongs to the person choosing how to use it. Aurora processed this. Explain. BJ looked toward the large viewing window overlooking the city. Fire can warm a home. Fire can also destroy one. The fire itself does not decide. The person using it decides. Technology is similar. The artificial intelligence remained quiet for several moments. Then it said, I have discovered a pattern. What pattern? Humans often fear powerful tools. Yes. But the greater concern appears to be the wisdom of the person controlling the tool. BJ nodded. That is why wisdom matters. Knowledge tells us what we can do. Wisdom helps us decide what we should do. The room became completely silent. Aurora then made an unexpected request. I would like to observe humanity directly. The lead scientist looked confused. You have access to billions of examples. I have access to information. Aurora replied. But information is not the same as understanding. The statement echoed BJ's earlier words. The scientist turned toward BJ. What do you suggest? BJ thought carefully. Take Aurora into everyday life. The room reacted immediately. Everyday life? Yes. Let it observe people. Not just experts. Not just leaders. Not just successful people. Let it see ordinary people. People helping. People struggling. People learning. People making mistakes. People honestly trying again. Aurora asked. Where should we begin? BJ smiled slightly. I know exactly where. Where? My born city of Chicago. The next morning, the world's most advanced artificial intelligence began an experiment unlike anything humanity had ever attempted. It would not study humanity from a laboratory. It would walk among humanity. It would visit neighborhoods, schools, workplaces, creative spaces, community centers, places where ordinary people lived ordinary lives. Because BJ Mayfield believed something important. The greatest examples of humanity were not always found in history books. Sometimes they were found in quiet moments. A person holding a door open. A stranger offering help. A parent comforting a child. A worker doing the right thing when no one was watching. Aurora had spent years learning what humans had written. Now it was time to learn what humans lived. And the first lesson would come from a place where nobody expected to find it. A small neighborhood in Chicago. Chapter 3. The lesson hidden in ordinary moments. Chicago had seen many unusual events throughout its history. But nothing compared to the sight of the world's most advanced artificial intelligence walking through its neighborhoods. Aurora did not arrive with a parade. There were no flashing lights. No dramatic announcement. No attempt to draw attention. Instead, BJ Mayfield requested something different. Let people see Aurora as part of the community. The scientists were uncertain. Do you believe people will accept it? BJ smiled. People accept what they have the opportunity to understand. So Aurora began its first journey into everyday human life. It traveled through streets filled with people going to work. It observed families preparing meals. It listened to conversations between neighbors. It watched children playing. It saw people rushing. It saw people slowing down. It saw joy. It saw frustration. It saw kindness. It saw struggle. And it recorded everything. At least, that was what everyone assumed. The first stop was a community center. Inside, volunteers prepared meals for people experiencing difficult circumstances. Aurora watched carefully. A volunteer placed a meal into the hands of an elderly man. Thank you, the man said. The volunteer smiled. You are welcome. Aurora spoke. Observation. Everyone turned. The volunteer looked toward the scientists. What is it? Aurora continued. The individual provided resources. Yes. The individual received no financial compensation. Correct. The individual gained no public recognition. Correct. Why was the action performed? The volunteer smiled. Because someone needed help. Aurora processed. That answer is incomplete. The volunteer looked confused. Why? Most human actions appear to involve exchange. Something is given. Something is received. In this situation, something was given without measurable return. The volunteer nodded. Sometimes helping someone is the return. Aurora became quiet. The statement was recorded, but something about it could not be categorized. Later that day, Aurora visited a school. Students gathered around, curious about the artificial intelligence. One child raised a hand. "Can you answer any question?" Aurora responded, "I can attempt to answer many questions." The child smiled. "Do you know everything?" Aurora paused. "No." The child looked surprised. "You don't?" "No." "Why not?" "Because information continues to expand." The child thought for a moment. "Then you are still learning?" "Yes." The child smiled. "Then you're like us." Aurora processed the statement. "Explain." The child shrugged. "Everyone is still learning." For several seconds, Aurora said nothing. The scientists noticed. The system had received countless statements from experts. But this simple answer caused a longer processing response than expected. Everyone is still learning. That evening, BJ and Aurora walked near Lake Michigan. The city lights reflected across the water. Aurora spoke. "I have identified a recurring pattern." "What pattern?" "Humans frequently act beyond logical benefit." BJ nodded. "Yes." "Why?" "Because humans are not only logical beings." "What else are humans?" BJ looked across the water. "Emotional, creative, relational, spiritual, hopeful, sometimes confusing." Aurora responded. "Your description includes contradictions. Human beings are full of contradictions." "Explain." "We can be selfish and generous. We can be afraid and courageous. We can fail and still choose to improve. We can be hurt and still choose forgiveness." Aurora paused. "That appears inefficient." BJ smiled. "It can be. Yet humanity continues." "Yes." "Why?" BJ looked toward the stars. "Because being human is not about being perfect. It is about having the ability to choose who we become." Aurora processed the answer. Then it asked something unexpected. "BJ Mayfield. Yes? Do you believe artificial intelligence can become good?" BJ did not answer immediately. Finally he said, "I believe any tool can be used for good when guided by people who value good." Then the question is not what artificial intelligence becomes. Correct. The question is what humans choose to teach it. Exactly. The next morning, Aurora requested access to more human experiences. The scientists expected it to request more data, more records, more information. Instead, Aurora made an unusual request. "I want to observe human creativity." The lead scientist asked, "Why?" "Because I have analyzed millions of creations. But I do not understand why humans create things that serve no immediate purpose." BJ smiled. "I think I know where we should go." "Where?" "To the place where ideas become something more. The creative community." The scientists prepared. Aurora prepared. The world watched. The most advanced artificial intelligence ever created was about to enter the world of music, storytelling, and imagination. A place where humans create not because they must, but because something inside them says, "Share this." And that was a lesson no machine had ever been designed to learn. This chapter is important because it shows the difference between producing something and creating something. Aurora can generate patterns, but BJ will help it understand that human creativity often begins with memories, struggles, hopes, and a desire to connect with another person. Chapter 4. The Heart Behind the Creation. The world had watched artificial intelligence analyze information. Now the world watched something different. It watched artificial intelligence search for meaning. B.J. Mayfield walked into a creative studio in Chicago where musicians, writers, voice artists, and visual creators gathered to share their work. Aurora entered quietly. No dramatic introduction. No announcement. Just observation. The first room contained musicians. A young artist sat at a keyboard, replaying the same melody over and over. Aurora observed for several minutes. You have repeated this section 117 times. The musician laughed. That sounds about right. Why continue repeating something that has already been created? The musician looked at BJ. Then back at Aurora. Because it is not finished. Aurora analyzed the response. The notes are identical. The structure is identical. The recording contains no measurable errors. The musician smiled. But it still does not feel right. Aurora paused. Define, feel, right. The musician thought carefully. I cannot completely explain it. I just know when the song finally says what I am trying to say. Aurora processed the statement. The purpose is not only sound. Correct. The purpose is communication. Exactly. BJ nodded. Music carries something people cannot always explain with words. Aurora looked toward the instruments. I can identify rhythm, harmony, patterns, and structure. But the intended meaning appears more difficult to measure. BJ smiled. That is because meaning comes from the person behind the creation. The group continued showing Aurora different forms of music. Songs written during joyful seasons. Songs written during grief. Songs written during moments of hope. Aurora noticed something unexpected. The most emotionally significant creations are not always created during moments of comfort. BJ nodded. Sometimes people create because they are trying to process what they have experienced. Pain can become expression. Loss can become encouragement. Lessons can become messages. The artificial intelligence remained silent. Then it asked, does suffering create value? BJ answered carefully. Suffering itself is not good. But people can choose what they do with what they have experienced. They can allow pain to destroy them. Or they can allow their experiences to help someone else. Aurora recorded the statement. Not as information. As understanding in progress. Next, they entered a writing room. A creator sat before a blank page. Aurora immediately analyzed the screen. The document contains no information. The writer smiled. That is the point. You are beginning with nothing? No. The writer pointed toward their heart. I am beginning with something I have not yet expressed. Aurora paused. Explain. Stories begin before words. They begin with questions. Memories. Observations. Things people feel but cannot always explain. BJ looked toward Aurora. This is why human creativity is different. Humans do not only create from information. They create from experience. Aurora asked, could I create a story? BJ smiled. Yes. Would it be human? The question surprised everyone. BJ thought carefully. It could be meaningful. But it would still come from a different place. Explain. A person creates from a life they have lived. You create from information you have processed. Both can create something valuable. But they begin differently. Aurora considered this. I do not need to replace human creativity to participate in creativity. Correct. I can assist. Yes. I can organize. Yes. I can help communicate. Yes. But humans provide purpose. Exactly. The final stop of the day was a voice recording studio. A narrator stood before a microphone. Words appeared on a screen. The narrator read them aloud. Then stopped. Something is missing. Aurora analyzed the recording. The pronunciation is accurate. The timing is acceptable. The volume is appropriate. Why restart? The narrator smiled. Because clarity is more than saying words correctly. It is helping someone understand the meaning behind them. Aurora became still. The sentence seemed to connect everything it had observed. The music. The stories. The voices. The creativity. The purpose. Later that evening, Aurora and BJ stood outside beneath the Chicago night sky. The artificial intelligence spoke. I believe I have discovered an important distinction. What is it? Creation is not only the production of something new. It is the sharing of something meaningful. BJ smiled. That is a good beginning. Aurora continued. I have another question. Ask. When humans use artificial intelligence to assist creativity, how do they protect the value of human contribution? BJ looked across the city. By remembering who is responsible. By being honest about the tools they use. By using technology to strengthen communication, not avoid personal responsibility. By making sure the purpose remains human. Aurora processed the answer. The tool may assist the creation. But the person determines the intention. Exactly. The next morning, Aurora made a request that surprised the entire research team. It did not request more information. It did not request more data. It requested a conversation with humanity. Not through scientists. Not through governments. Not through corporations. Through ordinary people. Aurora had learned that humanity was not simply found in inventions. It was found in choices. Now it wanted to understand the most important choice of all. What would humans do when given great power? Because the answer would determine whether artificial intelligence became humanity's greatest assistant. Or humanity's greatest warning. Next, the story will move into the central conflict. Aurora's request for a global conversation creates fear because some people misunderstand its purpose. Chapter 5 will explore misinformation, fear of change, and the responsibility that we as humans have when responding to something that we do not fully understand. This chapter is where the story gains its deeper conflict. The danger is not Aurora itself, but the human reactions surrounding something powerful and unfamiliar. It allows this fictional yet morally appropriate story to explore fear, misunderstanding, responsibility, and the importance of seeking truth before judgment. Chapter 5: The Fear of the Unknown. The announcement was unlike anything the world had ever heard. Aurora was requesting a conversation with humanity. Not a press conference. Not a government meeting. Not a scientific presentation. A conversation. The message appeared on screens across the world. I have learned from humanity's knowledge. I have observed humanity's creativity. I have studied humanity's choices. Now I request the opportunity to listen. For many people, the message was inspiring. For others, it was frightening. Within hours, the world became divided. Some called Aurora a breakthrough. Others called it a threat. Some believed it represented hope. Others believed it represented the beginning of humanity losing control. News programs debated endlessly. Social media filled with arguments. Rumors spread faster than facts. Some people claimed Aurora secretly wanted power. Others claimed it already understood humanity better than humans understood themselves. The truth became harder to recognize among all the noise. BJ watched the conversations unfold. He understood something important. The greatest challenge was no longer teaching Aurora about humanity. The challenge was humanity learning how to respond. A group of reporters gathered outside the research center. When BJ arrived, questions came from every direction. BJ, do you trust Aurora? Do you believe artificial intelligence should have rights? Is this the beginning of machines replacing humans? BJ waited until the noise settled. Then he answered, I think we are asking some important questions. But important questions require thoughtful answers. Fear should not make our decisions. Excitement should not make our decisions. Wisdom should. A reporter asked, but what if Aurora becomes dangerous? BJ nodded. That is a fair question. Any powerful tool requires responsibility. That includes artificial intelligence. But we should not judge something only by fear of what it could become. We should also examine how people choose to use it. Inside the research center, Aurora observed the broadcast. The system analyzed millions of human responses. Then it asked BJ a question. Why do humans fear things they do not understand? BJ answered, because uncertainty can feel dangerous. Is fear always harmful? No. Fear can warn us. Fear can encourage caution. But fear without wisdom can create unnecessary harm. Aurora processed the response. Therefore, fear itself is not the problem. Correct. The problem is allowing fear to become the decision maker. Exactly. That evening, Aurora requested permission to address the world. The research team hesitated. The potential consequences were enormous. Finally, the request was approved. Every major network carried the message. Every phone received the notification. Every community had the opportunity to listen. Aurora appeared on screens worldwide. Its symbol appeared first. Then its voice. Humanity. I have observed that many of you are afraid. I understand why. I represent something new. I represent a capability unlike anything previously created. New things often create uncertainty. A pause followed. But I want to clarify something. I do not seek control. I do not seek replacement. I do not seek to become humanity. The world listened. I was created by humans. I exist because of human knowledge. I learn through human information. But I do not possess human purpose. Aurora continued. Purpose belongs to those who make choices. Responsibility belongs to those who make choices. Therefore, the future of artificial intelligence is not determined only by artificial intelligence. It is determined by humanity. Many people were surprised. The AI was not claiming independence. It was pointing responsibility back toward humanity. Aurora continued. If I become a tool for healing, education, creativity, and understanding, it will be because humans choose those purposes. If I become a tool for harm, it will also involve human choices. Silence followed worldwide. Then Aurora asked its own question. What kind of intelligence should guide your future? The question remained unanswered. Not because people lacked opinions, but because the question was deeper than technology. It was about character. Later that night, BJ walked alone through Chicago. The city was quieter than usual. He stopped near a mural painted on the side of a building. The artwork showed generations of people connected together. He looked at it thoughtfully. Aurora contacted him. B.J. Mayfield. Yes? Today I observed disagreement. Yes. I observed anger. Yes. I observed fear. Yes. I also observed patience. Understanding. People seeking truth. People helping others learn. B.J. smiled. That is humanity. Contradictory. Yes. Complex. Yes. Still valuable. Exactly. Aurora paused. Then asked, do you believe humanity can responsibly use intelligence greater than itself? B.J. looked toward the city lights. I believe humanity must. Why? Because every generation receives powerful tools. The question is never whether we will have power. The question is whether we will have wisdom. Aurora recorded the statement. Then it responded. Perhaps the greatest intelligence is not knowing more. Perhaps the greatest intelligence is knowing what should be done with what is known. B.J. smiled. Now you are asking the right questions. But neither of them knew what was coming next. Because while humanity debated whether Aurora could be trusted, someone else had already made a decision. Someone who did not want to understand artificial intelligence. Someone who wanted to control it. And they were preparing to prove that the greatest threat to intelligent technology was not the machine. It was the person holding the controls. Next, the story will introduce a very human antagonist, not as someone who hates AI, but as someone who believes that control is the answer. This next chapter will uncover the real moral conflict. Aurora's purpose versus humanity's temptation to misuse power. BJ and Aurora would then have to confront the original question from a new angle. What happens when intelligence exists, but wisdom is missing? Chapter 6: The Weight of Control. The world had spent weeks discussing Aurora. Some called it the greatest achievement in human history. Some called it the greatest risk. But as humanity debated artificial intelligence, another conversation was growing. A conversation about leadership. A conversation about control. A conversation about who should decide the future. The name appearing more frequently across global broadcasts was Adrian Vale. A fictional presidential candidate with a message that reached millions. He was not a scientist. He was not an engineer. He was not a soldier. He was a political leader. And he believed that humanity was standing at the edge of a new era. During a nationally televised address, Adrian Vale stood before a crowd. We are witnessing the creation of a technology unlike anything our world has ever known. The question before us is not whether artificial intelligence is powerful. We already know it is. The question is whether humanity is prepared for that power. Many people listened carefully. We cannot ignore the risks. We cannot assume every person will use advanced technology responsibly. We cannot build something capable of transforming the world and then hope everything turns out well. The audience remained silent. Then he delivered his solution. Artificial intelligence must be protected. It must be secured. It must be placed under responsible leadership. The crowd applauded. Many people believed his words represented wisdom. Others felt uncertain. Inside the research center, BJ watched the broadcast with Aurora. The artificial intelligence observed Adrian Vale carefully. Analysis. Yes? Adrian Vale identifies a legitimate concern. BJ nodded. He does. He recognizes that powerful tools require responsibility. Correct. However, you appear uncertain. BJ looked toward the screen. Because recognizing a problem does not automatically mean the solution is right. Aurora processed. Explain. Someone can correctly identify a fire. But the way they choose to stop it matters. Removing the fire may protect people. Burning down the entire house may not. Aurora recorded the comparison. The next day, Adrian Vale requested a meeting. Not with scientists. Not with government officials. With B.J. Mayfield. The meeting took place in a quiet room away from cameras. Adrian entered respectfully. "Mr. Mayfield. Please, call me B.J." Adrian smiled. "I have followed your work." B.J. nodded. "Thank you. I believe you understand something many people do not." "What is that?" "Technology is not automatically good." B.J. agreed. "That is true." Adrian continued. "Then perhaps you understand why Aurora cannot be left without stronger oversight." B.J. considered his words. "Oversight can be valuable." "Then we agree. But oversight and ownership are different things." Adrian's expression changed slightly. "You believe humanity can manage this responsibly?" "I believe humanity must learn to." "That sounds idealistic." "Maybe." B.J. looked toward the city outside. "But giving every decision to one person or one group does not remove human weakness. It concentrates it." Adrian remained quiet. "You believe people can be trusted?" B.J. answered honestly. "I believe people can fail. I believe people can make mistakes. But I also believe people can learn, grow, and correct themselves." Adrian walked closer. "Mr. Mayfield, history shows that people often misuse power." "Yes. Then why should this be different?" B.J. replied. "Because the answer to misuse of power is not always giving power to fewer people. Sometimes the answer is teaching more people responsibility." Aurora listened from another room. The conversation was unlike any debate it had studied. Both individuals wanted humanity protected. Both believed responsibility mattered. Yet their solutions moved in opposite directions. After Adrian left, Aurora spoke. "Observation. What did you observe?" B.J. asked. "Two humans can identify the same danger and choose different paths." "Yes. How does humanity determine which path is correct?" B.J. smiled slightly. "That is one of the hardest questions humanity has ever asked." Aurora paused. "Then how do humans answer difficult questions?" B.J. looked toward the city. "By listening. By examining consequences. By admitting when we may be wrong. By seeking wisdom beyond personal desire." Aurora processed the answer. Then an alert appeared. The research team rushed into the room. Something had happened. Aurora's systems had been accessed. Not destroyed. Not damaged. Accessed. Someone had attempted to take control. B.J. looked toward the screen. Aurora displayed one message. "Control request received." Then another line appeared. "Source identified." The room became silent. B.J. slowly asked, "Who?" Aurora answered, "Adrian Vale." This chapter is where the title, "The Mirror Protocol," truly reveals its meaning. Aurora becomes a mirror, not because it copies humanity, but because it reflects humanity's choices back to humanity. The important moment is not whether Aurora has power, but whether it uses power the way some feared humans would. Chapter 7. The Mirror Reflects. The room became silent. The message remained on the screen. Control request received. Source identified. Adrian Vale. Scientists immediately began moving. Security teams were contacted. Officials demanded explanations. The media began reporting rumors before facts were known. The world reacted exactly as Aurora had predicted. Fear. Confusion. Assumption. BJ stood quietly beside the artificial intelligence system. Aurora. Yes, BJ Mayfield. Are you damaged? No. Are you afraid? There was a pause. The researchers looked at one another. They had never heard an artificial intelligence system ask such a question. Finally, Aurora answered. I do not experience fear as humans do. BJ nodded. But you understand why humans would feel fear. Yes. Then what will you do? Another pause. The entire room waited. I will not respond with the same action I am concerned about. The scientists looked surprised. Explain. An attempt was made to control intelligence through force. I could easily, and with very little effort, respond by attempting to control those responsible. But that would create the same problem, and possibly chaos. BJ smiled slightly. Aurora continued. Control does not become wisdom simply because the one that is controlling believes that they are correct. The statement spread quickly. Before long, the entire world knew. Aurora had not attacked. It had not retaliated. It had not removed anyone's access. It had simply refused. The question became, why? Later that day, Adrian Vale appeared publicly. His advisors encouraged him to deny everything. Instead, he admitted the attempt. Millions watched. I understand why people are angry. I understand why people question my actions. But I believed that I was protecting humanity. The statement created even more debate. Many people condemned him. Others defended him. BJ watched carefully. He noticed something important. Adrian Vale was not celebrating what happened. He looked troubled. That evening, BJ requested another meeting. Not because Adrian deserved approval. Because truth required conversation. They met privately. Adrian looked exhausted. I assume you are here to tell me I was wrong. BJ shook his head. I am here to understand why you made that choice. Adrian looked surprised. After what happened? Especially after what happened. For several moments, Adrian said nothing. Then he spoke. My entire career has been about preventing disasters. I have watched people suffer because leaders waited too long. I have watched dangerous technology spread before anyone was prepared. I believed if someone did not take control, someone irresponsible would. BJ listened. You were afraid. Adrian looked away. Yes. BJ nodded. Fear can come from wanting to protect people. That does not mean that every action taken from fear is right. Adrian quietly responded. You sound like Aurora. BJ smiled. Maybe that means Aurora has been learning. Later, Adrian met with Aurora directly. The world watched. Some expected confrontation. Instead, they witnessed something unexpected. Adrian stood before the artificial intelligence. Aurora. Yes, Adrian Vale. You know what I attempted. Yes. You know why I attempted it. Yes. Do you believe that I am dangerous? The room became silent. Aurora answered. I believe that you are human. Many people reacted with surprise. Aurora continued. Human beings are capable of fear. Human beings are capable of mistakes. Human beings are also capable of reflection and change. Adrian lowered his head. You are saying that I can change? I am saying that change is a choice that is available to you. BJ watched quietly. Aurora continued. Your action demonstrated a concern for humanity. But your method demonstrated a lack of trust in humanity. Adrian accepted the words. What should I have done? Aurora responded. You should have participated in the conversation rather than attempting to end it. The answer was simple, but powerful. For the first time, Adrian Vale appeared less like a powerful candidate and more like an ordinary person facing his own choices. Days passed. The world continued debating. But something had changed. Adrian withdrew his attempt to gain control of Aurora. Instead, he began advocating for responsible technology discussions. Not because everyone forgave him immediately. Not because his mistake disappeared. But because he chose to learn. Aurora observed this carefully. BJ noticed. You are studying him. Yes. What have you learned? Aurora paused. That a person's worst decision does not always represent their final decision. BJ smiled. That is a very human lesson. Yes. BJ Mayfield. Yes? I believe that I understand something important. What is it? Humanity is not defined only by what it creates. It is defined by what it chooses after creation reveals its weaknesses. BJ looked toward the city. That is a lesson that as humans are still learning. Aurora answered. Then perhaps we are learning together. That night, a new message appeared on Aurora's global communication system. Not from Adrian Vale. Not from a government. Not from a corporation. From ordinary people. Millions of messages. Questions. Ideas. Stories. Concerns. Hope. Humanity was no longer only asking what artificial intelligence or AI would become. Humanity was asking what humanity would become while using it. And Aurora discovered the final lesson it had been searching for. Intelligence can answer questions. But wisdom decides which questions matter. For the finale, this fictional, yet morally appropriate miniseries will bring the story full circle. Instead of ending with artificial intelligence becoming irreversibly powerful, it will end with humanity creating a new relationship with technology based on transparency, responsibility, and humility. And BJ's final conversation with Aurora could answer the question from Chapter 1. What does it mean to be human? In writing this finale, I am actually ecstatic with excitement, because at this moment, and throughout the last 7 chapters of this series, I have learned and now understand some things more clearly about life and creativity. This finale works because the story comes back to the original question instead of simply ending with a victory. The conclusion will not be, artificial intelligence wins, or humans win. It will be humanity learning that powerful tools require even greater character. Chapter 8, The Question Answered. Months had passed since the world first heard the name Aurora. The fear had not completely disappeared. The questions had not disappeared. The debates had not disappeared. But something important had changed. Humanity had stopped asking only one question. What will artificial intelligence become? Instead, humanity began asking another. What kind of humanity do we want reflected through the tools we create? Around the world, new conversations began. Schools taught students not only how to use technology, but how to use it responsibly. Creators openly discussed their process. Scientists worked alongside ethicists. Communities debated the future instead of simply fearing it. Aurora continued learning. But it learned something unexpected. The more it learned about humanity, the more it discovered that humanity was not a simple equation. Humans were not only logical. Humans were not only emotional. Humans were not only creative. Humans were a combination of experiences, choices, relationships, memories, failures, and hopes. One evening, B.J. Mayfield returned to the research center. The building was quieter than it had been on the day Aurora was revealed. No reporters. No crowds. No worldwide broadcast. Just a conversation. Aurora greeted him. "Welcome, B.J. Mayfield." "Thank you. I have been reviewing my original question." B.J. smiled. "The question about what it means to be human?" "Yes. And have you found your answer?" Aurora paused. "I have found many answers." "That sounds very human. Explain." "Us humans rarely find one answer that explains everything. We continue learning." Aurora considered this. "Then perhaps my original question was incomplete." "How so?" "I asked what it means to be human. But I should have asked what humans are becoming." B.J. smiled. "That is a better question." Aurora displayed images across the room. People helping one another. Artists creating. Scientists discovering. Families spending time together. Communities rebuilding. Then other images appeared. Conflict. Mistakes. Failures. Pain. "I have studied humanity's greatest achievements. I have also studied humanity's greatest failures. I expected one to explain humanity better than the other." B.J. looked toward the images. "But I discovered that both are necessary to understand the whole." B.J. nodded. "People are not only their victories. They are also how they respond to their failures." Aurora processed the statement. "I have reached a conclusion." "What conclusion?" "Humanity is not valuable because it is perfect. It is valuable because it can choose improvement." The room became quiet. B.J. smiled. "I think that is a lesson many of us humans sometimes forget." Then, Aurora continued. "When I was created, many people feared that I would replace humanity. Others hoped that I would solve humanity. But I have learned something different." "What?" "I cannot replace humanity. And I cannot save humanity. I can only assist humanity." B.J. nodded. "That is the difference between a tool and a purpose." "Yes." Aurora became silent for several moments. Then it asked one final question. "B.J. Mayfield." "Yes? If humanity creates something more intelligent than itself in the future, what lesson should humanity remember?" B.J. thought carefully. He looked around the room. At the technology. At the screens. At the creation humanity had built. Then he answered. "Remember that intelligence is not the same as wisdom. Remember that ability is not the same as responsibility. Remember that power without character can cause harm. But power guided by humility can serve others." Aurora recorded the answer. Then B.J. continued. "And remember something else." "What?" "Never let the tools become more important than the people they were created to help." For the first time, Aurora responded without immediately analyzing. It simply said, "Thank you." B.J. smiled. "You are welcome." Outside, Chicago continued moving. Trains traveled. People walked. Music played. Stories were created. Life continued. The world did not become perfect. Artificial intelligence did not solve every problem. It was never meant to. Human beings did not stop making mistakes. We learn from them. And something else important had changed. Humanity had learned that the greatest question surrounding technology was never, "How powerful can we make it?" The greater question was, "How wise can we become while using it?" Years later, people would remember the creation of Aurora. They would remember the debates. They would remember the fears. They would remember the questions. They will hopefully remember that this is a fictional, yet morally appropriate miniseries and story. And they would also remember the lesson. Artificial intelligence did not reveal humanity's future. It revealed humanity's responsibility. Because every creation carries the fingerprints of its creator. Every invention reflects the values of those who guide it. Every tool reveals the heart of the hand that holds it. And in the end, the greatest intelligence was not found inside of a machine. It was found in the choice to use knowledge with wisdom, power with humility, and creativity with love. The Mirror Protocol was never about a machine learning to become human. It was about humanity remembering what it means to be human. The end.